FOXO is in a gene neighborhood, got lots of friends that all influence the aging process. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And this is interesting because if you look at all-cause mortality in very late life, look at, say, inflammation or anemia, liver function, lipid glucose, telomeres. Sorry, Rich. Not telomeres. Inflammation predicts all-cause mortality in very late life. Now we all know. We're talking about that. You know, a lot of speakers talked about inflammation and inflammaging, putting together inflammation and aging. And inflammation at the cellular level, chronic low-grade inflammation as a driver of the aging process. So, all right, something here just to mess with you guys. What's that? Oh, come on, somebody must know. Plastic gift. Not you guys. Oh, Hydra. Oh, what's that got to do with aging? Okay, all right, you're right. Yes, basically, Hydra they're immortal. Why are they immortal? Well, our friends from the Max Planck Institute wrote this very interesting paper published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2012, and what they wrote here is just what it says, you know. FOXO is a critical regulator of stem cell maintenance in immortal Hydra. And if you ablate FOXO, guess what? Your pool dries up. No more stem cells. So, you know, just like we saw here, you know, go back. Stem cell maintenance. There we go. So, quite interesting. Bradley, you also talked about this, so I'm not going to go into this. But FOXO works as an aging hub. We published this in Aging Cell in 2017. Our geneticist, Tim Donlan, he's a master, you know. He's out in another world. But can I say that he can't write so well? But he's a thinker. So we work as a team, and he found this. Look it up. This is a great paper. It's really, really funky. Brad, you know, talked about it earlier, so I'm going to move on. All right. So mortality protection of FOXO3, how does it work? Again, I'm going to just whip through this because both of you guys have talked about it. So since both of these guys talked about it, you guys should just be shouting out the answers so I don't have to drone on about this. You know? CHD, coronary heart disease, the main effect, if you have one of the two protective alleles. You're heterozygous. We put the homos and the heteros together. Might not work in a bar, but it works in the experiment. So, and if you had one of the protective alleles, you know, decreased risk for coronary heart disease. So why is FOXO3 connected to longevity? I mean, it's a common allele. Everybody has the FOXO gene. 30% of you in this room have one of those protective alleles. And by the way, none of you are leaving before I get a blood sample. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Okay. Can a single gene meaningfully impact human longevity? Yes, can. We worked with a Health ABC study where we combined the blacks, whites, and Japanese, men and women, and here's the combined analysis. So you see the risk goes down. Now it's different. There's a lot of variability in some of the samples, but you combine them. It's good to have high numbers. And you see, yes, it can. That's the answer. And okay, this is population attributable risk for all you epidemiologists out there. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you're looking for risk factors in a population, the Japanese, the #1 risk factor in our Honolulu Heart Program population, this one is only men, by the way, is the lack of one of the G alleles. the same strength as hypertension. And you know what a problem, Arai Sensei, hypertension is in Japan. It's the same. Look at that. So every population is different. So there's different, how should we say, levels or populations that everybody has some populations have, say, more of the G alleles, more of the double G alleles, homozygous, or just the TT or genotype. So, but you see this, but you see the same thing. Look, here in the whites from the health ABC population, it's the number 3 risk factor. After hypertension, pretty well almost the same as smoking. And then in blacks, it was number 2. Hypertension was number 1. But FOXO. So you might want to get tested for that if you're worried about cardiovascular disease, particularly coronary artery disease. And we talked about this, FOXO3 and inflammation. Inflammaging, is it the smoking gun? So here we see, again, we combined the, where's my, the G and the T's together, the GG. So the heteros and the homos are together, and the TTs are over here. Higher levels of C-reactive protein, one measure of inflammaging. Next. Oh, this is my karate sensei. Does anybody know him? That's Uehara sensei. So at this point, he was 97. So, and you might like this, Rich. We used to do this karate. He's got a dojo in Ginawan, and we used to practice on the beach, on Araha Beach, which is close to Ginawan. And he was tough. He's 97. Look at him. I mean, okay, we didn't go full on with him, but he was pretty tough. And after every karate session, our practice, doing our kata, messing around, he had this big sword too. He's a dangerous dude. Okay. Here's what you're going to like about this, Rich. After every practice session, he used to pull out the Orion beer. Are there any Orion beer sponsors here? Because, this could be good. Drink Orion beer, live longer. Okay, anyway. All right, so these are some books we wrote. Basically, our first book it was the 25th anniversary of the Okinawa Centenarian Study, and Makoto Sensei and Bradley and I kind of summed up the data, and we made an intervention program, since I'm in the intervention side of things. Something that the general public could react to. Like blue zones. People love the blue zones. It's sexy, So we tried to, make it sexy. We had the Okinawa Way, how to improve your health and longevity dramatically. But the Europeans in England, this is how it was published, as the Okinawa Way. And that was our title. We loved that, right? Then Random House comes to us and they say, what is this Okinawa Way thing? Can't you have program in the title somewhere? And we're like, I was really insulted, no, it's the Okinawa Way. And they said, well, Barnes & Noble and the other publishers will triple their orders if you put program in the title somewhere. And we're like, okay, I'm kind of liking that now. So we sold out, and the American version was the Okinawa program. And actually, Arai Sensei, what does that say? These two kanji together. Whoa, choju, what does it mean? Okay, all right. The first printing had this kanji and that kanji. So they had cho, so long. Which, okay, they're Americans, they don't get, kanji. And here's my favorite one. This is how it was published in Italy. I mean, I think that's the most, all right, can I have a vote here? Who agrees with me? This is the best cover. Come on, you Italians. You got a sense of fashion. Can't not read. This is published in Italian. Oh, okay. All right. I might have one in the trunk of my car. I have old copies that I kind of sell to support my nefarious lifestyle. But all right. But yeah, I liked it. I loved that. You know, the Italians have this fashion sense. I mean, look at the man here. Here I am. You know, I'm like my sandals. You know, hello, how wear. But hey, this is Okinawa and Hawaii. You know, I just came off the beach in Honolulu. So, all right. So, Dr. Hu, you talked about this. We worked together to redesign the Asian food pyramid, which if Frank gave a very nice slide on that, and if you look under Old Ways, which is an organization, a foundation that promotes traditional eating patterns, including the Mediterranean diet. Walter Willett's involved with that. He's on the board. I'm sure you are too, Frank. And but I gave my input, and this mostly I took it from our experience with the Okinawa food pyramid, which we designed here. But yeah, the Asian diet and the Okinawa diet are similar. We wrote a paper. Sorry, I'm not going to show it today, but we were asked by an Italian colleague. Do you know him? Franceschi? Yeah, okay. So he asked us to, you know, he's the guy, as you know, put aging and inflammation. He's an immunologist, you know, aging and inflammation together, inflammaging. So he was doing a special issue in mechanisms of aging and development and asked us to write a paper. So the title of the paper was Healthy Aging Diets Other Than the Mediterranean. So we talked about the Okinawa diet, and we had our little food pyramid in there. But if you look at it, you know, it's very similar to most aging diets. The typical diet in Okinawa, pre-war period. Can I skip this, Brad? How much time we got, Ollie? I don't want to drone on forever. Okay, I'm going to cut to the chase here. This is a paper we published in JAMA from our data from the Honolulu Heart Program in men. There's a special issue on men's health, and this was the lead paper. And we got a lot of press with this, so you might want to check it out. It's a long time ago, though. But we had these 10 major risk factors that we looked at. And here they are: hyperglycemia, hypertension, high alcohol, low education, overweight, poor diet, high triglycerides, low grip strength, ever smoker, and these are men. Unmarried. Risk factor for men. Doesn't seem to be for women. Can you help me with that one? Why is that? In Japan, and my wife's Japanese, she says a good husband is healthy but absent. I'm not quite sure how to take that. Maybe we can talk about that later. Okay, so anyway, what we did is we looked at men in their mid-50s, average age of about 55, and looked at these risk factors. Well, we have John Grove, our biostatistician, came up with this funky model, and the ones that came out the strongest here. Okay, all right, let's forget about that. We're talking about the number of risk factors here, all right? So as you may expect, if you have 0 risk factors at age 55, and this is living in a healthy survival, so free of age-associated disease, which we defined later. I'll tell you about that if you're interested. So the point is with this is the number of risk factors, they're cumulative, which makes sense. But it was a model that we could predict how they would survive 20, 30. Later we pushed it out 40 years based on these risk factors. So I guess JAMA liked it because it's the lead paper in the special issue on men's health. So, but it was interesting. And okay, since I'm the last speaker, I want to show a few pictures. Okay, when I was doing studies up, I was actually living in the village. And I went back to my anthropological roots. So I was an honorary member of the Gate Ball Club. See? That's one of their icky guys up there. This one, doing bashofu. So she used to thread from the, very happy. Here's the question, and Frank, you addressed this one, so I'm just going to whip through this. Basically, there's a lot of similarities between these blue zone diets. So who talked about that? Right? And so I'm not going to talk about. One point is vegetable heavy. Very important. Lots of legumes as well. And what we found a lot of CR, caloric restriction, mimetic foods. So you get some kickback from these healthy foods through the mechanism of caloric restriction, partially activating FOXO3. And I'm not sure that everybody knows this, but the main carbohydrate in the traditional diet is sweet potatoes. This is, astaxanthin, turmeric, green tea. The Japanese diet and the Okinawa diet are very different. Japanese diet, rice-based. Okinawa diet, traditional diet, sweet potatoes. All kinds of them, purple, yellow, orange, lots of polyphenols. So foods like this, dishes like this. This is bitter melon, nijana, greens. So many greens, so many orange, green, orange, yellow root, leafy green vegetables, tofu, lots of tofu, not so much meat. The traditional diet, who could afford meat? Now, I ask you this, isn't it strange that you can go to a supermarket and meat is cheaper than a sweet potato? Something wrong there. So here are the key features. Low caloric density, plant-based, low-fat, moderate protein, soy, fish, lean meats, high nutrient density, phytonutrient rich, low in glycemic load, anti-inflammatory. You want a healthy aging diet other than the Mediterranean? Here it is. But actually, the features that they share are very similar. The foods, of course, are different, but the main features very, very similar. Sweet potatoes, and these are good. When I usually give a talk in North America and people on the American diet, I say, well, look, the USDA says Americans lack sufficient amounts of dietary fiber, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and the antioxidant vitamins A, has carotenoids C and E. Well, guess what? That's everything here that Americans lack is here in the sweet potato. So I just tell them, eat more sweet potatoes. They do in the South, but they usually kind of make pies and that out of them. I just get them from the sweet potato truck. But, and you look at the glycemic index. In the early 90s, before the glycemic index went worldwide, Bradley and I were sitting in Dr. Jenkins' lab, getting our fingers pricked and measuring our response to eating carbohydrates. We thought that was really funky at that time. And we said, DJ, that's his name, David Jenkins, DJ, this is going to go big someday. You got to patent this. He said, oh, I'm a scientist. I'm not a businessman. I'm like, okay. And what happened? It went big. It's everywhere now. So this is interesting, though. The sweet potato is a GI 55, which is kind of medium or just slightly low, depending on how you cook it. But here, this is what most people eat, is the so-called Irish white potato. 90. Stay away from those. But you can go now to most restaurants and get sweet potatoes. The problem is that older Okinawans only eat them. Younger people don't eat so much of them. This is the sweet potato truck, by the way. Yakimo. That's me. You notice that I'm all alone? It stops in front of my house every Sunday. And they play a little song, Oishi, sweet potato. Oishi means tasty, right? And then he stops right in front of my house because he knows that I'm going to go out there and buy 5 or 6 sweet potatoes. But my neighbors don't come up. So that tells you something. The foreigner is buying them, All right. So astaxanthin, if you're talking intervention, it's a xanthophyll carotenoid present in microalgae. Why am I talking about astaxanthin? Because there's this company, which, by the way, I bought stock in this company, and I consult for them. So I'm telling you my conflicts of interest here. In the meantime, the stock went from about, I don't know, $2 to, what is it, almost zero now? So you might want to buy it now, unless they go bust. But anyway, the whole idea was to take astaxanthin, which has demonstrated this efficacy in all these models of aging, mainly inflammatory based, and turn it into a medicine. So far, they've come up with a supplement, which, again, I take daily, but everybody has their own routine. I'm not David Sinclair, and I'm not going to tell you what I take, other than this. Okay, next. This is something really funky we did in Rich's lab. What we did was we want to see what happens if you feed astaxanthin to mice. And guess what we saw? It increases FOXO3 expression by 90%. All right, what are we looking at here, Rich? The heart, the liver. So these, okay, all right, I got to go on. I'm just out of time here. So again, the antioxidant activity, very strong, better than vitamin E, beta-carotene, lutein, lycopene. Okay, now I'm finally at the last slides here. This is what we thought. We thought, well, if the traditional Okinawan diet is so healthy, and it's one of the reasons Okinawans live so long, let's feed it to Americans. See what happens. So we applied to the Mambu Kagakusho, which is one of the main funding agencies in Japan for research. And they gave us money to do it. It was wonderful. A lot of money. And so here, we're just here. So we put out the word to the Americans living in Okinawa, mostly teachers. And we had all these volunteers. And then this is the explanation meeting, and then here are some of the traditional vegetables. And so how do we do it? Well, Americans don't like to cook, right? So we cooked for them. We made vacuum pack bentos. So this is a meal. Here they are. They used to get a delivery once a week. So they had, the weekend, they could take it easy, and we gave them bitter melon juice and mixed it with apple juice because it's bitter. Surprisingly, most of them drank it. Plus, we gave them a copy of one of our books with lots of recipes. They try and stay on the program on the weekend, but you can't be on the program too long. But anyway, these are some of the bentos. So, next. Guess what we saw after this intervention program? By the way, a little washout period here, and then at Group A, Group B, it's a randomized crossover design. So that here, Group A goes on the intervention. You see the blood pressure start to drop. At this point, they change. Group B, they're on their regular diet, and then they go on the Okinawa diet. So it's a beautiful result. I sound like Donald Trump. It's beautiful. Okay, anyway, what we saw is DASH-like blood pressure reductions in Americans. Everybody knows the DASH diet, right? Dietary approaches to stop hypertension. So this is the most commonly prescribed diet to lower your high blood pressure in America. And this is it's not a diet designed by researchers to lower your hypertension. It's a natural diet. Yeah, and guess what? We got the same, very similar results. All right. Now, this is me. And Makoto Sensei, you showed the slide yesterday, right? See, here, this is before I went on the Okinawa diet. Kind of like a little heavy around the waist, and my breasts are sagging. But this young lady, she wasn't quite 100. I think she was 105 at that time, but she lived to be 110. That's Dr. Suzuki and one of our research assistants. Obviously, calorie restricted. This woman, look at her, she's so tiny. Now look at me. Here, look at this picture. I lost this whole bunch of weight. So, and then we wrote this book, the Okinawa Diet Plan. So this is my last slide, I think. So I thought I would throw in some shameless self-promotion here. So this is it. But it works pretty good. So here, conclusions. As we all know, chronic low-grade inflammation is a major determinant of aging rate and longevity. Recent research has discovered important genes like FOXO and pathways hubs that regulate the aging process. Nutritional approaches, flavonoids, polyphenols, omega-3 fatty acids, calorie restriction. Very important. They're also pharmacological strategies. So what we've learned about aging in the past 30 years is just amazing. And the Okinawa diet has a lot of this stuff. You know? I think we should compare the Mediterranean diet to the Okinawa diet and see what happens. In fact, I recently saw a paper, some Norwegian scientists put some diabetes patients on the Okinawa diet and got really good results. I'm not going to show it today. I'm done. This is it. Thank you.